Hey guys, this is Why So Frail. We are going to create a weapon for the medic, and it's going to replace the bone saw, and it's going to be a wooden mallet. And if I open up this folder, this is going to be the mallet that we are going to create in this tutorial. It's going to look very similar to this. And right off the bat, make sure that you create a file path for your project. So mine is in C, wooden mallet. It's just a basic folder. And we can create another folder in that and just call it export. And that folder is going to be the folder that we're going to export the reference models to. So now that we have our directory and everything, let's first make sure that we have these materials converted to target files. As you can see, they are JPEGs. So let's select both of these, drag them into Photoshop, and we're just going to save them very quickly. So there's the rubber for our mallet. We're going to save as target file. We're just going to call it rubber. And we got to remember these file names also. So make sure that they are relevant. So 32 pixels, close out of that. Here's our maple, save as, targa, and maple. So there we go, 32 pixels. We can close out of that. And now we have our target files. And let's start by modeling our mallet. I guess next we can remember our dimensions. So we have 616 by 821, and let's kind of round that off to 62 by 82. Or the length and the width segments both set to 1. And let's set the length to 82 and 62, Alt W, and let's apply material to it. It doesn't matter what type of material you set this one to, because we're actually not going to apply this to our model. This is just a reference. So bitmap, and find your directory. So I have one mallet. So C, wooden mallet, and hammer, and just apply it. And now we can go over to our modify, UVW map, real world map size, and now our reference picture is within scale, since our plane is exactly the same size. So now let's go to our geometry and let's create a cylinder. And we can turn on snap toggle and just rotate 90 degrees. And also we can right click our object, go to object properties, and if that is unchecked, check it, press OK, and now we can hit Alt X, and also you can press F4 and it brings up your segments. And we actually don't want those segments, so we're going to go back, and we actually can't go back, unfortunately. We're going to go back to geometry, create another cylinder, and make sure that the segments are set to 1. And then we can just scale it. So it's a good thing I checked before we got too crazy. And again, object properties, uncheck that, and now we can see through it. So next I'm just going to center this over there as best as I can. Go over here and edit poly, and select both of these faces, and we're going to bevel it. So we're going to extrude outward, right about there, and then just kind of scale downward a little bit. And that's all we're going to do. And we're going to select this whole element right here. We're going to go down here, we're going to clear the smoothing groups, and we're going to auto smooth it. And now we can start by modeling the handle. So let's just create a box, just go up a little bit, and let's right click it, go to object properties, unselect that so that we can see through it by pressing Alt X, and so let's extrude it there. Just keep the values the same. Just keep extruding it. I guess we could just right about there, extrude, and just keep it just like that. Now we can press F and Z, and now we're in the front perspective. Now we want to go into polygon selection mode, or edge mode, and we want to make some segments right here. So let's go to slice plane, move it within the center, slice. We're going to go up, slice, and then we're going to go down and slice it. So now if we go into vertices mode, and we actually select all these middle verts that we just created, to kind of scale outward, go to the center one and scale it out just barely. So we got our middle selected and just kind of scale it out. And, you know, that looks good. I'm content with that. So we can press P and Z and then press Alt X and then select that object, Alt X, and now we can see our model a little easier. Also, I have my viewport set up pretty poorly, so I'm going to turn realistic off, and let's go to shadows, turn the shadows off, and let's just kind of move things around. Looks good, and Z and P. And as you can see, our mallet is actually going halfway through the plane. So let's kind of match that up with our mallet. And to kind of center it. Perfect. Let's delete our reference and let's add some texture to it. So let's press M. Let's go to free material slot. Make sure that it's set to standard or multi-subbed object, but for this tutorial, just go to standard, go to diffuse map, bitmap, and make sure that it's set to targa. And since we have the mallet part, we're just going to select rubber, rubber.tga. We're going to name this to rubber. We're going to show shaded material viewport, assign material to selection. We're going to go up to parent, and we're going to name this to rubber once more. And we're going to set up our second material. We're going to select the handle. We're going to make sure that it's set to standard. And we're going to change our map to bitmap. Go to maple. We're going to assign it to the selection. And then we're also going to call this maple. And then we're going to go up to the parent and call this maple. Now we can go over to our modify panel. Go to UVW map. We're not going to create any custom UVW maps in this tutorial, and I'm just going to turn on box, and that looks pretty good for me. And as far as the rubber, same thing, UVW map. We're going to select box and real world map size. We're going to keep everything, all the values the same, and next, we want to make sure that these two models are connected to each other. As you can see, I can lift them up and they move individually, and that's not good. So let's select the rubber part, select and link, and just click on that mallet or the handle and just click out. So now if we select the handle and we move, everything moves. As if we move, that only moves. Okay. So now we want to get our reference. So let's go to GFCscape and locate your Team Fortress 2 root directory. So mine was in, as you can see, C program files, Steam, Steam apps, Team Fortress 2.materials.gfc. So you want to load that. You don't want to load the content. It's commonly misunderstood, but just go to your Steam file path. So we go to TF, models, press W, go to weapons, and we're going to be creating a C model, and let's grab the bone saw. So there's the bone saw, and just copy that within your wooden mallet or your project folder. So now I have the C bone saw within here. So now we want to locate that model folder. Right click it, open with Notepad++, and replace this fifth character with a comma. So we just replace the 0 with a comma, and that allows us to decompile the model. So let's go to Model Decompiler and locate that that model that we just edited. So let's go to Wood Mallet, C Bone Saw, and that's the file that we just edited. So let's just open it, or not open it, sorry guys. There we go, and let's create the export folder path for that. So wood mallet, and just go to export. That's why we created that folder. And just hit extract. Everything decompiled correctly. So now, within our export folder, hold on a sec. I guess I actually didn't create that within our export folder for some unknown reason, so I'm just gonna move them in there. Okay, so now we have our idle. We don't need that. The only file that we need is this file right here. This is gonna be our reference. So let's go, we can close out of our materials. We don't need that. We can go to import and go to C and just go to your project folder and import that SMD file. It's gonna say .dmx. So load that, convert from left-handed coordinate space, and now we want to scale that and apply it to our model. So we can just move it over, align it as best as we can. I mean, obviously, we can't see it in game right now. So 180 degrees, 90 degrees, and that's the reason that we have the snap toggle on, is so that we can I just pressed L to go to the left perspective. And I'm going to try to guess as well as I can what it's going to look like in game. And there we go. Looks good. And we can press P and Z and Alt W. And let's delete that mesh after we move it over. Looks good. And we can just delete that mesh, and we can go to select and link mode again, and we can select the handle. We can click and drag it to the bone and click out. So now that when we pick up the bone, everything will lift. As if, you know, we move the rubber, that's the only thing that moves. Move the handle, that's the only thing that's actually not correct. So let's click on that. Just select that over there, and should be able to move things around just like I showed you. So now that we have our materials, everything exported, our materials, everything is set up properly, now we can just export our SMD. So let's go to our project folder, go to export, and let's just call this mallet. Sounds good. And we're gonna export reference. So now that we exported that material, or that SMD file, which is actually right here, we can delete this SMD, or we can create a new folder and call it backup. So we can just move that in there, and then take that SMD file that we just created and copy it 2 times. Name this one idle, and then this is going to be mallet.dmx.smd. Now we can open our QC file with edit Notepad++, and we want to make sure that these directories are the same. Obviously mine is set up incorrectly. This needs to be C1 mallet export. And since we're actually creating a C model, we want to make sure that we're in the right file path. So we have weapons, C models, and let's just call this mallet, and then the name of our model, mallet. And this is actually pretty much you're naming your folder path right here. You know, there is like no incorrect way to do this part. So just make sure that you are consistent. And now we want to make sure that we have this name within this. So we have mallet, and then mallet.dmx.smd. And we want to change the material directory to, standard directory is, it's going to be materials, and then it's going to be models, weapons, and then the name of your folder, so mallet, and then that's it. It's going to locate that folder path, and it's going to create everything for us we're gonna have to create our VMT and VMF file there. So that's all we have to do for our QC file. So let's set up our materials. And so let's go to materials and mallet. And like I said, we are within materials. Change directory to materials, models, weapons, and then that folder I just created, mallet. And let's create our copy our target files within that folder. So now we have, you know, everything all in one spot. And let's go to VTF edit. Let's see here, VTF edit. Let's import. And I already have let's actually create this locally so that we can do this quickly. So open up Maple and let it load. And you want to make sure that your materials are either set up as like 256 by 256 or 512 by 512. You know, my materials right now are just like straight from Google, and they're very large, and Valve is not going to accept your materials if you set them up like this. But now that we have our material opened in VTF edit, we're going to save it. So save and go to your root directory, so C, wood mallet, and let's just call this maple. And then we can go to new and import and just do the same thing for rubber. And then we can hit save and call it rubber. And that's it. We're done with our creating our files right there. So now if we go back, not to confuse you, local disk C, wood mallet, and now we have our VMT and our VMF files. We're just going to copy and paste those into our materials directory, as you can see up here. And I have a little script that I use for basically all my items, and I'm just going to copy and paste them in. Wrong file. And you want to make sure that your material is set up as this, otherwise it's not going to work. And just kind of match my settings right here. And you want to make sure that these file paths are right. So my base texture is actually within materials, models, weapons, mallet, and within that folder, as you can see, we're editing the maple VMT, so it's just going to be called maple. So we can select everything, copy, and then we can save it. It's not going to prompt you that you didn't save it, so make sure that you are saving it. So we're going to open that, paste it in, and this is going to be the same thing, but it's going to be rubber. And that's it. Our VMT and VMF files are set up for us. Everything is compiled, and the last thing that we have to do is compile our model. So let's go to GUIStudioMDL, and this assumes that you have everything set up. I'm using the EP1 toolpath. Let's go to orange box, and let's load our QC file. So let's go to C, wood mallet, export, model decompiler.qc, compile. Everything compiled properly. Now let's test source SDK and make sure that everything is running smoothly, because we want to make sure that our model is actually applied properly so that we don't waste any time by going into Team Fortress 2. You know, we can get a quick glance at our model before we get too graphic about it. So let that load. I'm going to pause it for a second. Maybe not. And there we go. We can go to Model Viewer. And let's just load that model. So let's go to Models. Actually, Weapons. C Models. And then Mallet. So Mallet. And then we can hit F5. And there's our mallet in game. Alright, so here's Team Fortress 2. Let's go to Steam Workshop, load test map. And the first time that this loads, it's going to take a while, so, you know, just leave it open. So let's go to Medic, press F7, and since we're created a weapon for the Medic, you want to make sure that you select Medic, go to Weapons, select Model, and then this is within the models, C models, and then the name of our folder. We didn't name it C underscore mallet, we just called it mallet. So there's mallet, let's load the model, and we're replacing the bone saw. So let's hit OK, and let's just go to auto add and apply items. So there's our mallet. It's not sitting in our player's hand very nicely, so first thing that we can do is actually notice that it's too thick. So let's just hit disconnect, and let's just go back. And now we can come over here, go back to 3ds Max, and let's just select the handle. And actually we're going to have to select all of these, unlink, and select the handle, go to scale, scale on the local axis, and just kind of scale it down, and I'm happy with that. So let's go back to select and link, select the top, select the handle, and then select the handle, and then click on the bone. So now that if we double check things right now, we can pick everything up. We can pick up everything up like that, and you know everything is set up properly. So let's re-export our models. So we got our directory C with mallet export, and let's just double click that. So that's the idle.smd. It's all the same file, it's just different names. So now we just resaved our 3 SMD files that we originally did at the beginning of our tutorial, and now we can just hit compile and go back to Team Fortress 2. So now we can go back to Steam Fortress, load test map, and then press 7, press F7, and just apply. And it's still not looking nice, so let's go back, and let's move it back a little bit, and then export. And then we can compile it again, and go back and reload it. So hit enter a couple times, press 7, press F7, and just apply again. And there we go. Our medic is wearing, or holding our new weapon, and I guess we can press F7 again. And since we are on the, what team are we on? We're on the blue team. So F7, we don't want to add to the blue team, and select medic, and just add a lot of them. So now if we press apply, we can see what our model looks like from different views and our different light sources. And there you go. That's our model, and you know we created everything. And I hope this tutorial helped, and thank you guys.